emerging on the face of the earth, a new human, an infinite human, and that infinite human is you. Join Elizabeth Monroy weekly for enlightening discussions, multi-dimensional journeys, profound meditations, and empowering visualizations as we co-create the new consciousness renaissance together with other blossoming infinite human beings who are shifting the old paradigms of our broken, fragmented, finite 3D Earth and alchemizing it into a more expansive, unified, loving, infinite reality by reclaiming their true divine infinite power within as the co-creators of the new infinite Earth.
Hello, you divine infinite human beings, you're all that is, ever has been, and ever shall be. And this is the second part of our series, and we're talking about the new earth, and the theme is the role of animals in the new earth. Okay. And I feel like we've gone through a major shift, and this show was really a response to a lot of what I've seen happening with you guys. You've been reaching out and sharing with me, and a lot of you have lost your beloved, animals, your dogs and your cats and your pets, just in this past shifting period. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, and then of course Amma had a real crisis happen, and she's going to share that in a minute. But it just it hurts me so much, because I think everyone knows that Kiki's with me wherever I go. She kind of stepped up for Peter because he wasn't able to be here, and she holds frequency with me, and we work together. And I always say, Kiki's my spiritual teacher. She teaches me to love unconditionally, which I forget a lot. She loves everybody, and to play with life, and to have fun and play. And she's pretty much in charge. She runs the show. She gets me out, and when she came into my life, oh God, I was the pitch, it's almost been 10 years. And I was, really being attacked. I didn't even know it. I was very ill. I was on all kinds of pharmaceuticals because I just stopped caring about life, and I had trouble just walking. She's my service dog, and I was suffering some seizures at the time. So she was a service dog that was trained even to read, and she would just get me out, get me out of bed sometimes. Mm-hmm. This was a real tough, challenging time in my life. Just so much grief that I just, it's taken me about 20 years to move through my grief, but so like I said, I've been through everything that everyone's going through now, and I'm on the other side of it. So I have the empathy, but I owe my life to Kiki, and if it weren't for her, I don't think I'd be alive. So did you hear that, Kiki? And she understands everything. I really have to say that I am sure that Kiki, oops, I'm trying to get her here. Come here, Kiki. No, she doesn't want to talk. I'm going to say Kiki is an ascended master. I'm sure she's from the highest Rishi levels. And she just took on form because she knew I needed help, because it was really difficult when Peter left. And so she's here, and she's still a dog, very much a dog. She loves dog stuff. And we've had a very special role in Sicily because they treat the animals horribly here. And she's like a spoiled princess. So at first she was like, what are you? And, and now she's really into the dogs. So there's so much that's going on, but let's go ahead, Amma, and hear about you and Aurora Light and the whole, I hate to hear this stuff, but, I was crying when you were, doing that video with the other little sheepies that we lost. So, but if you would mind, and this is Amma Soul again, and Amma, just give, in case people are just tuning in, a little bit about who you are one more time, if you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely. I'm the founder of the Blue Heart Sanctuary here in Western North Carolina, and I'm also the founder of Soul Gaia.
And that's for animal rescue.
Yes.
Yes, she rescues animals.
Yeah. I started as an animal cruelty investigator in Manatee County, Florida, and moved about 60 animals up here in 2006 to get away from the heat and the hurricanes. So yeah, animals have been my passion ever since I was a little girl. I've always been an animal magnet. Wild animals and animals have always just gravitated toward me. And now I reflect. I had a lot of trauma as a child, and animals are easy to love. So yeah, really connected with the animal kingdom, and really honored to be holding this space to bring the animals here. People often ask, how do the animals end up here? And it's divinely orchestrated. They find their way to me. So I'm really grateful. But yeah, so most recently, my most recent rescue, it's been a couple weeks now. A neighbor reached out. He has sheep that he raises for meat, which I don't resonate with, but he does have a caring heart on some level with caring for his animals. And his sheep were attacked, likely by coyotes. And of his 11 sheep, 4 were killed, 4 more were seriously injured, and 3 were unhurt. And he reached out to me and asked if I would come over and assess with him the 4 that were injured. He said he was either going to mercy kill them, or I could take them and see if I could, help them recover. So immediately I said, I'm on my way. And by the time I got there, he killed one of them because she had huge chunks missing out of her shoulder. But the other 3, I asked, do you want to come to connect with my higher self? Is this what I'm supposed to do? And it's a resounding yes. So he loaded them up in the trailer and brought them over. 7-month-old lamb and 2 ewes. The one had both of her ears ripped off, huge, giant puncture wounds to the neck and the cheek. The other one had her nose ripped off. It was intense. And it's challenging, to witness animals that are in that much trauma, that much stress, but to be able to hold space for them. And I wish I had a happier ending for the 2, the little lamb. It was too much. It was just too much. And I think maybe the video that you saw where I was crying, like, oh, did I make the right decision? I had the vet come. I thought there was some wounds that needed suturing. They were intense. Aurora, her whole inside of her front leg is shredded. And, I felt a bit out of my league. I do as much as I can holistically, organically, with energy. But, the wounds were just, they're very, very severe. And, it was too much. And, I guess it's the humanness of questioning, did I do the right thing? And then it's like, yes, you did. You allowed those animals to come and transition in a place of peace. You allowed them the opportunity to feel love from a human for the first time. And, when they did transition, we sang the safe passage to heaven for them. And it's beautiful to be able to hold that space, and it's challenging. I named my sanctuary Blue Heart Sanctuary because I would suffer and grieve for months, years, sometimes every time one of my animals would transition. Even the ones that I just met, they touch my heart so deeply. And I was blessed. I was graced with a moment when one of my really just I had a pig. His name was Scooby. And he was just like a dog, and he was getting ready to make his transition. And I was like, I wasn't ready. I'm never ready. But I climbed over the fence to go tell my kids, do you want to come say goodbye to Scooby? He's getting ready to leave his body. And by the time I got back into where he was, he had just transitioned. And I was like, oh, I missed it. I wasn't here. And I climbed back over the fence to go tell my kids, and I saw his light body. I saw his spirit.
Oh, wow.
It was the first time that I had actually been physically able to see it. And he was like, don't cry. Why are you crying? I'm free. I'm out of my broken down body. I'm free. Be happy for me. Celebrate with me. I'm back to God's source. And I was like, oh my gosh. I still have my moments of that lack of the physical, but now my perspectives have shifted with it. And it was, for the little lamb and the ewe that made their transition. They were able to transition back to source here on this place of peace, to know love. And it's a beautiful gift. And I'm so grateful. And so Aurora is she's the sole survivor. She's both of her ears ripped off, and she is a
Baby.
fighter. She really is. And
Yeah.
the way that she has been responsive and open to receive this love. Sometimes I bring animals here and they're so traumatized. It takes so long to be able to break down those walls and have them, know that they can trust, that they can be open to receive the love. But she was instant. It was instant, like, oh, you're here, you made it. And now she's in with the flock. And it's really been just amazing to witness her recovery, her strength, to be able to survive such a horrific experience, to watch her family, get attacked, and many of them die. So I'm really grateful to hold this space, to allow her to have, to write a new timeline for herself, to have a new experience here at the Blue Heart Sanctuary. It's tremendous. So.
Well, you really, you're really passionate about that. You really shine when you talk about this, tell these stories. So much more than anything, and so I think you really found, your mission, your soul mission. And also, if you get a chance to see any of the videos that she does with the animals, they're so beautiful. That's what caught my attention most. The way you talk to, I think it was Apollo the first time. I talked to Kiki that way. I mean, Kiki and I are in the car, and sometimes I'm like, can you drive? She's just, we're just like Thelma and Louisa, we're going somewhere, and we're just like buddies. I don't even think she's not. And I talk to her everywhere. And, of course I speak to her in English, and, all the Sicilians don't know what I'm saying, but they look at me like, oh, that's that crazy American and her dog. And they just start talk to each other in English, but the way you talk to him, the way you talk to Aurora, it was just so loving. And the way you just, are just with the sheep, just with that beautiful, loving presence. I just think it's so wonderful. And it's very healing. And it's also, I think, putting a new imprint, laying a new foundation, which I want to talk to in a minute. But, I'm so glad you brought up the idea about death, because at the same time, a lot of Infinite Human Family, and, you guys are so precious to me. Anybody that's read my book, you're right there in my heart. And I just feel like that's the first connection, and then it's just to growing, we're creating a community, a New Earth community here. But, one gal who's read my book, her about the same time that was happening to you, her little dog, I guess, someone took it because she left the leash there she'd done it many times. And then I'm not sure the details, but it was trying to get back to her, and it fell in the lake and drowned, and it was terrible. She was looking to it for 2 days, and I was like trying to help her find it. And then other people that had lost, the cats. And, someone I coached yesterday said, I felt like just dying because, I had no reason to live because my cat Fritz was gone, got hit by a car. And, it's so traumatic too. When I was a child, I had so much trauma because I was waiting for a school bus with this dog, Thor, that I waited for every day. And he ran out. Never did it, ran out in front of the bus, and the bus just went over, didn't even stop. And I think it's harder with animals because they're so precious, they're so helpless, and they need our love so much. And then the external world can be so callous. So it's that double whammy of us feeling that inner child part of us, that I always say, I feel like, Dorothy and Toto, like travel around the world, like trying to bring her as a service dog, like she has to sit under the couch. I'm like, she's got to breathe, I mean, it's like people, it just shows how, I always say there's two kinds of people, on the planet, like dog people or not, or cat people. But, it shows my tribe. Kiki always actually finds so many of my friends and takes care of me. She finds people that rent me apartments or, whatever, take care of me when I was dying, and someone, well, can I take care of Kiki? And I'm like, you can take care of me and save my life because I have this terrible infection and I need shots every day. But, the point is that, there's such a soft spot in it, and it really shows compassion. It teaches us compassion, but it shows you who has compassion around you. And that's my tribe, So,
Mhm.
so some of the healing is for the people that have lost pets, because I've told a lot of people, oh, let's listen to this podcast,
Mhm.
Okay, so that was very healing, your story about Scooby
Mhm.
and his light body. And I also say something that's very interesting is that okay, when I got Kiki, she was tiny. She's big now. She's a huge Pomeranian. She's like this giant pom. And I was doing psychic fairs, like readings and stuff, like tarot cards and stuff. And I did that for many years. And the first night I had her, I was up all night. I thought, oh, thank God I can sleep. And I realized it was my first psychic fair. So I took her and she met an animal communicator. And the animal communicator said, well, you need to call her divine spirit. And she's going to be adored by millions, which she has been as we traveled around, And, she, this animal communicator was also had told someone else who had a very old dog named Eeyore, Basset Hound, that Eeyore wants to leave, but you're like holding on to them, and so soon as she said that, the next day Eeyore died, and but a year later, because they come back to you. That's my whole point. They come back to you sometimes. And Eeyore came back, and it was like the same soul in another dog. And the same thing with Kiki. I had a really traumatic experience as a child where my mother said, I was very touched. She said, we had just gotten this little puppy, and and I said, Mom, she's going to follow us. And she said, no, she has to learn. I said, but Mom, she doesn't know. We have to put her in the house or tie her up or something. And she said, no, she has to learn. My poor mom, she was from Virginia and just it wasn't a grown up yet. And so the dog followed us, and I watched it get hit, and it was really terrible. And it was called Little Bits. And I knew that it was Kiki, so they do come back to you if they're supposed to, or if they've done their job, it's time for them to move on. Do you want to add to that, Alma?
Absolutely. I have definitely experienced having animals come back into my experience for sure. So I very much resonate with that. I rescued a dog that was a backyard breeder. She was 4 when I got her and pregnant with her 4th litter. And she was so sad because she had lost all her babies. And I told her, this was the last time you have to go through this. And this time you can keep your babies. And she had 4, 2 boys and 2 girls. And the 2 brothers went off on an adventure. They went over 3 fences and went up into the woods. And I was not here at the time. But anyway, to make a long story short, only one brother came back. And we have held space. We just say that Panda is on an alternate timeline somewhere. He's off on an adventure. But the interesting thing is I had a couple goats that showed up here, and they were pregnant. And I was in Sarasota actually when one of them was born. And when my son sent me a picture, the first thing out of my mouth was Panda. It's Panda. I have no doubt that Panda has reincarnated as a goat, and very similar markings and everything. So it's interesting, they can come back in different forms as well, I believe.
So, it's our attachment to them as form. And I know it's hard and you have to grieve, so I'm not trying to stop you from grieving, but when you move through the grief, when you let that purge that out, there's just so much going on, So, okay. With that said, I want to talk about the new shift. I really think there's something happening here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see here. Let me just see where we're at with time here. Okay, so I feel like, okay, I'm going to bring it up. It's the word. Now, if you've read my book, I always say, I'm going to talk about this, that, one man's medicine is another man's poison. And I never tell you what you should eat. Okay. So it's really about whatever you want to eat. And you need to pay attention to your body. And I okay, I was became a vegetarian in 1992, and was as a vegan too. But vegan wasn't even part of the vocabulary back then. And we did it. It was part of our spiritual discipline. It was just required. But then it just as after that happened, it started to look like roadkill to me. As soon as I flipped the switch, when I went into a shop, and I. I was kind of a little snobby vegetarian. So it was to respect life, and I really learned that. But I was kind of like, oh, well, sometimes we just have a baked potato with cheese on top of it, and like because we lived in places like Idaho, that's where we were sent. Moline, Parker, Arizona. I mean, we were out in the middle of the country in the 90s. There was no kinds of alternatives that we have today. It's like I couldn't believe it when all this stuff started coming out. But I will also say that, okay, I'm just going to go. Then, my spiritual teacher at the time said, you don't want to be like, so I'm this, and I did an interview with a woman, who has a great podcast, wonderful soul. But after she said, are you a vegan? I just know you're a vegan. And I said, well, I'm not a vegan. I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not a carnivore. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not a Jew. I'm not, a label. But, I do whatever the frequencies call for me to do at the time, moment to moment. And I know there are some people that have perhaps a genetic structure that has more, say, Anunnaki in them, that need to have a more of a animal-based diet. And especially now when we're going through the frequencies, I know for me, sometimes I just needed to eat some meat. I had to eat some meat to just ground myself. But after, with the shift of energy, and then after I saw you crying, Alma, it was like click. I just had to go back to complete, veganism. So you want to talk to that? I've talked for a while here.
No, sure. Yeah. Well, I consider myself an animal empath, so I really feel their suffering. And even when I was a baby, my mom wrote in my book, "Will not eat meat." And growing up in a meat-eating household, that's what I was fed. I can remember the last time I was forced to eat a piece of steak. I literally could not swallow it, as chewing and chewing, and I could feel the suffering of the cow as I was chewing and chewing, and it's like I didn't want to swallow. It was like I tried to swallow and I just gag, and I was just crying. And I remember my mom saying, "Okay, I'm not going to force you anymore." And I was an animal and dairy science major, so I saw firsthand how animals are being raised for production, the hormones and the pesticides and the disgusting nature of factory farming. I was, I saw it with my own eyes, and I shifted from vegetarian to vegan. Then that was 1990. And I became very involved with animal rights. I was an angry vegan for many years.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck? Do you know this is happening? I mean, this is 1990. There weren't a lot of YouTube videos and information out there. You could find it if you looked for it. But I read Diet for a New America, and it shifted my life. So yeah, I just, for me, I can't love them and eat them at the same time.
Yeah,
And
it must be a real dichotomy. I mean, and the dichotomy of healing is sheep that are bred for meat. I mean, it's
right,
just such an oxymoron,
right.
paradigm.
Well, and I think also, I'm graced in the rescue that I do. It's not just companion animals, what people consider companion animals, dogs and cats. It's like I've had personal relationships, loving relationships with pigs and chickens and sheep and goats, and I see how they develop bonds and love one another, how the mothers love their babies. For me, so like my understanding or my perspective is, this is part of the shenanigans. It's like, if you could if you could hear the mother cows crying and grieving, looking for their babies, and then all that suffering and grief is going into the milk. There's a lot of people that are like, well, I just drink milk. Well, the dairy industry is the meat industry. I hate to tell you, it's just the really horrible experience for the cow along the way, because she's going to be forcibly raped and bred. Her baby's going to get stolen when it's less than 24 hours old. And then all that emotion is going into the milk. People say, well, I only eat humane raised, meat. Okay. I can tell you now, when I have to trim my sheep feet, they're like, they freeze, it's in their cellular memory. They've witnessed their babies getting stolen from them and having their throats slit. So even these sheep that have been here since 2019, when I have to work on their feet, that trigger happens. It's like, oh shit, what's going to happen? And so that fear, that panic, that's the energy. That's what's flowing through their bodies when they're getting killed. And that's the emotion that we're eating. That's the energy that we're eating. So anyway, I am passionate about it. And I also hold space, it's like, not for me to say what's right or wrong. I just know like what I resonate with. And, there's a lot of just horrible things that go on, especially here in the US with factory farming. But I think it's everywhere now. It's just like, how can we get these animals? What can we do to get them to, the state of ready to be slaughtered in a short amount of time with the least amount of money put into them? And the answer is usually to pump them full of hormones and pesticides. And that's what we're eating. And unfortunately, it's not just the animals, our food supply. And we can go off about, how things have been tainted. And it's like, okay, what can we do to clear, to clear this toxicity from our bodies? And for me, it's like, okay, I want to eat as clean as I can. I did a 40-day fast the year that I turned 50. And for me, that was a huge shift in the programs and stories that we tell ourselves of what we need to truly thrive, not just barely survive. I go to the grocery store and I see what's in people's carts, and it's like, good God, how are you still alive? There's nothing of any nutritional value there. And, I think that's all part of the shenanigans to, create a lot of great customers for the medical system, unfortunately.
Well, for those that can't see, I've just always been amazed by the way you look. It's not just, beautiful, but you just have this inner glow about you, and it just this clarity that comes through your crystal clear blue eyes, and your skin, and I just knew, that you ate, the plant-based. So we're just going to take a short break, and we'll be back, and we're going to talk more about this and how it affects you physically. And we're back. And we're talking to Amasol, and we're talking about, right now we've talked about the shifting role of animals. And I just want to say, okay, we're talking about the new earth. This has been in the context this month of the new earth. And, my vision for the new earth, of course, if you go to the earth before it fell, when it was in its Tara, it's formed, we were breatharians, and we didn't even have, any of the stomach and the intestines and all that stuff. But, we're in a point of transiting back to that higher level. And I have talked about, and I wrote in my book, The Infinite Human, that, during this is a tough time, this transitional cycle. So sometimes you need to, eat different foods to ground you. So, it's really your own individual, wherever you're at. But I will say this, okay, and it's not shaming anyone, and we're not, we take only what resonates, your free will to choose. But I'm going to say that since this frequency shift for me, because I was a vegetarian, and the first book that we wrote, Peter and I wrote together, The Pathway Home, it's Divine Inner Healing, a book of divine inner healing. We talk a lot about, at that time we just said vegetarianism, but how important it is. And Amma mentions this too, that, people are talking all about fear, we have to move beyond fear to love. Well, when an animal dies, they know they're going to die. And, how would you feel if you were in a line and you knew you were going to be, killed, and you can smell the death all around you. It's still part of the death cult. Okay. Again, no judgments, but you're eating death. You're parasiting off of dead things, and frozen in their cells is that fear. So you are consuming fear, and yes, you can transmute it. Yes, you can send their quantum up, and fine, if that's where you're at in your story, that's fine. But and I've done both. I've done it all. But and that's just part of my encryption and my soul mission is to alchemize everything. But I know for me, personally, I'm just going to talk about that with this shift, and I knew I was going to go back to being completely vegetarianism. I mean, it's just the best diet for, I was the healthiest, the thinnest on it. And a lot of people are having a lot of ascension symptoms right now and stomach problems. I've had stomach problems for about almost a year now, and a whole lot of, and I want to bring this guy on because I was listening to his video and it was so amazing. He was talking about, and I don't want to get real gross here, but mucoid plaque, because we have a lot of mucus, and, a lot of people are allergic to everything, glycemate, all kinds of stuff. And I just did his mucusless diet to the best of my ability. Now, sometimes I got into the point, because I'm in a very high frequency place here, and I spend like my days in the sun a lot because I get activations, and in the ocean. And when I'm really, really high, it's like I need something to ground me. So I'd like grab a vegan bar or something, so I couldn't do it all. But he said, just eat live food, fruits and vegetables. And he does say when you're transiting, do some cooked like sweet potatoes or something, whatever. So it doesn't have to be like a religion, but for me personally, running through my intestines, my GI tract, live food. And I do like a fruit smoothie in the morning, and then he calls them broom salads that sweep them out. And I took some other supplements that helped clean it out, and it was like amazing. Now, I didn't have, some people clear 20 pounds of mucus, and I've lost a lot of weight because I was losing weight, but my stomach was all bloated, and when you think about it, you have, like, even with the cheese, you have dead, decaying things in you. And I just, after this week, I was like, oh my God, it affects every aspect of your life. It affects your emotional state, your mental state, your psychiatric state. So many psychiatric problems are because of that gut health, the intestines. So, it's karmic, when you're eating from death and when you're killing animals. And I know it's easy because it's just part of our culture. And, you want to go out with the friends, you want to do the restaurants, but that stuff, guys, is poison now. So just think about it. You want to add on that?
Yeah, I'm big in doing fasting, intermittent fasting, detoxes. I did a mucus plaque cleanse. I was diagnosed with multiple autoimmune disorders, and I healed my gut with 100% alkaline. For 3 months, I did nothing but greens. I was making juices, and there's, they wanted to take out my gallbladder, and yeah, so yeah, their solution is to, let's give you some antacids and take out your organs. But I think we all have parasites. I do parasite cleanses every month, especially around the full moon, 2 days before, on the full moon, and 2 days after. And I'll cycle between a lot of different herbs. I'm a big fan of diatomaceous earth, chlorine dioxide. I'm not a doctor, but these are things that I've demonstrated to myself that work for me, and definitely seen big shifts with them. So if you've never done a parasite cleanse, I highly, highly recommend it, because we all have parasites, and it's important.
Well, that was the first thing I did, because I've been doing so many parasite cleanses. And then I finally got to the point where I got through it. I got rid of the parasites. And that's when I went for the the mucus and everything. And if you really keep clean, because it's like the foundation has to be sane, sano, we say in Italian, sano, healthy. So if you have a mucus free, candida free, gut and intestines, that's where they can't thrive. So, and I've been a sugarholic, but you know what? Because I just love the Sicilian desserts here. That was my downfall. They have these like cassata and everything, but I can't tell you how wonderful it feels. And I really want to start being like cool. You know how they say, stop making stupid people famous. Let's make, like intelligent eating cool instead of all these pictures of these gourmet dead animals, having a smoothie in the morning with like I freeze my raspberries and blueberries and watermelon and everything. I take it out of the freezer and let it thaw a little bit and put some fresh thing, in some ginger. And I drink that and it just, my whole body goes up a frequency. It's like, and it just feels like I've done the heart shield, literally, cleansing me. So, I'm saying this because I really think, and this is the launch, the thrust of the talk show and my work that's going to carry on now. Part of co-creating a new earth is, like I said, it starts inside of you. And a lot of people are into the Christic path, and that's wonderful because they're doing all kinds of spiritual activations and all this stuff. Beautiful. But guys, we are physical, emotional, mental, spiritual beings, first of all. And that's what the pathway home is about. And we're also financial and social. Okay. Those are six, seven natures of us that have to evolve as we evolve. And I'll see a lot of people who are very, aware of the Christic path, but they're like, oh, I can't keep my house, or I can't, I can't pay for this. I can't, you need to be moving forward holistically, wholly, all of you. And, you need to be constantly upgrading, and we're doing physical right now. We're talking about physical, and then we'll go into all those areas, so that's very much a part of ascension. And you'll find that as you ascend in frequency and take care of yourself, it's interesting because for me, the compassion, I just couldn't turn my eyes away anymore. When you were like with the sheep, I'm like going, I've never eaten a lamb, but here in Italy, they'll have like a spring lamb or something, and it hurts. I think we all feel that at some and it just feels so good, not just mentally, and emotionally, but physically, so there is, when it's aligned with when I say Crystalla spiral, I mean aligned with infinite source, aligned with the true virtues of karma free living. It's healing to you, all of you, because there's some part of you that you're doing something because of mind program.
Right.
Because go ahead.
Yeah, may I facilitate tours and have people come and they get to meet the sheep, and the sheep are so loving. And so I'm often just like reflecting of like, oh, these ewes came from a meat farm, and had these two lambs that were born here at the sanctuary been born over the hill, they would be dead, because lambs are generally slaughtered, less than a year old. And I think for some people, it's just like, oh my gosh, like, because it's like, oh, you go to the store and there are all these packages of lamb or beef or like whatever it is. And it's like, there's no like connection with, oh, this was a sentient living being that is loving and loves, and it's just like, oh, they're just like your dogs and cats. We've just been programmed like it's okay to eat this, but not that. And it's interesting. I was I went to pick up some hay yesterday, and the hay guy that I was talking to was reflecting that he's been witnessing something really interesting lately, and they have a lot of trail cams up, and they're seeing, because we were talking about the coyotes, and he said, they are seeing where people are putting out like feedlots, to be able to shoot deer. They bait them with corn and stuff like that. On the trail cams, they're watching coyotes coming in and taking the apples and taking the corn right next to a raccoon. So there's something that's happening. And he said he's seen it with bear as well. And bear will be there.
Perfect. And let's move into that, because there's a shift occurring. Thank you.
Yes,
I was getting all emotional about the other thing. But
right.
yes, there's a shift occurring. And this is, we're moving to this new earth in increments. Okay. And first of all, animals hold frequency. And they also, we used to have 3 dogs that we traveled with. They were our children, and because we went into some dark and dirty places, because they absorb the negativity first. Okay, they're the ones that absorb and transmute it, and these frequencies that are coming in. When I say the new Earth is here, well, a lot of us humans aren't getting it, like I said, because we're in such high dense areas, but they're getting it. The animals and the Deva Kingdom, the spirits, the trees and the forests, and the waters and the fairies and all that. And I don't want to get off the track, but I just said, you have such a fairy vibe from you. You know that.
I get that a lot.
I know. I just kept thinking, just come from the fairies. But anyway, so and you do commune also with the Deva spirits, because the animal spirits and the Deva spirits, which are the spirits of the waters and the lands and the elements and all that kind of stuff. But that's a whole nother talk show. We'll have to bring you back for it. But with that said, so I think of course, on Eartha or whatever, on the highest form of a blueprint of this earth, there are animals, but they don't kill each other. They're not in survival. They don't, they're there to exchange energy, to teach us to just to be and to share. So I feel like the animals are going to be the first that are going to be leading the way, because they're holding the frequencies the purest, because they're so pure at heart. And they're able to just, if they're especially out in nature, which they are supposed to be, they're absorbing these frequencies. What say you?
Oh, I agree 100%. Like I was sharing, it's like these animals that have been brought, that have come here, been graced to come here, all the love that's gone into their rehabilitation, their healing. So now they're holding that space for others who are coming here. And it's just so beautiful to witness. They're such the epitome of unconditional love. And it's been remarkable to witness how they're holding space now, for others.
Yes. And compassion, that's something that in this robotic, kind of world that they're trying to shove down our faces, and like I've said, at the airport, they're like, okay, she needs to go into this thing here, take the, it's like they're teaching us compassion. They're reminding us that we're human. Kiki will go up and the young people will be sitting around, in the piazzas here, and they'll be like on their cell phones, and she'll nuzzle up in them, and they're like, ah, and then like, oh, and then they'll just like melt into her, because she's just pure love. If anyone has experienced Kiki, we're going to Scopello in a minute. Okay, you're being good. She's being so patient, but just touching her, it's like a communion. She just goes into this meditative state, and she just heals them, because they're healing. Just being with them heals them and transcends them into higher frequencies. And it's so important that we have animals in our world in a new, not to eat, not to feed upon, but to be with.
And I think there's a shift in perspective as well, because oftentimes when people come to visit, well, what do you get from them? You get milk from the goats, or you get the wool from the sheep, and I'm like, love. There's no other expectation, it's just love, and it's just like, oh,
love,
right?
what's that? Love.
Mm.
Yeah. So, and it's love, and it's healing, and it's teaching us compassion, and it's holding the frequencies. I back when they were doing all the fires, that were created, the lasers and stuff, especially in Australia, and I was seeing these kangaroos that, had been killed in the koala bears and everything. But they were part of the agenda was to destroy not only the forest but the animals, because they hold frequency, and the mind control program that we've been given is, to use animals as, this is to use, and I mean, I'm not saying there can't be a cooperative nature. I had a horse, and I loved her. I'd hang from her neck and everything. She was like my dog, but and especially we used to use them to get places. It was wonderful bond. And in fact, Kiki was my horse. We were told when we got an aura picture, they said, oh, I was an Indian and she was my horse, and we had this very close relationship. But that's a sacred bond that we had. with our animals. And I think we need to, and that's why they're so special to us, our pets, and we're so upset when we lose them, but we have to start bringing that back. And I think a lot of people are also having new pets replace their old ones. And I think they're even higher frequency. They've coming in with a higher soul mission. One was just to be companions with us, but now they're almost becoming our teachers. And, Kiki, I was like, during this time, I was like, "You're not leaving me, are you?" And she's like, "No, I'm here." For a while. I was told she'd be here for a long time. So that's good. But, I wanted to, this thing, I do tarot and listen to tarot. So today I got this thing about the sheep. I pulled a card and it was about sheep, and it said, "Sheeps remind us to return to Mother Earth, to cultivate joy and compassion, to take care of ourselves." Because of course, again, back to the diet, to slow down and to tune inward, tune into your body, tune out the outer voices, and tune into the silence and surrender to our Mother Earth. Isn't that interesting? That's the symbolism of the sheep. And then it's so funny because it's also talking about connecting to the heart, because we can get so heady, in our social media things. And that, like when Kiki noses into people on their cell phones, so immediately they go into their heart, they're not shocked if they're not like terrified at first. And, Aurora Light, the whole idea, because we're all talking about New Earth right now. And, she really was very symbolic, her whole journey that you shared via the net, which made me fall back in love with the internet, because she went from victim to victor. And Aurora is another name for Earth. There's an Aurora Earth, which is like the ascension Earth. So it's kind of like a light, So it's like we're seeing the light of this new Earth beaming through, where we're victors over things. So that's a symbol. That's my thing, symbols. And that's the symbolism I got from this journey that she gave us. And, part of the role of animals has been, I think that's ending now, is to show us, part of being a victim. Okay. We've been victims. Animals have been victims, but if you think of the fact that we're all one, so those of us who have played the victims have been there to show the victimizer that it just doesn't work. It's just no fun. And I know I've learned that because I don't, like I was so mad at my brother, and I just wanted so much to, we had this thing going on, and I wanted, once I literally said, "I'm going to kill you." And when I said that, this like energy came through me. And then, since our mother died, and, he got jabbed and all that, and he's had problems. And I was like, oh my God, I love him so much. I would never want revenge, or I would never want anything bad to happen. And I think that's what this whole trauma through the time matrix has been for us to learn. We played both sides, and to learn that. And the animals have been the ones to teach us by giving their lives to us, literally, to feed us. And I think that's ending. Let me just say one more thing, and then I'll turn over to you. We got about 10 minutes. Because I was down in the Yucatan, and there's some New Earth communities forming down there, and, and some of them had some really good concepts behind them, lots of beautiful land and space. And some of them were growing fruit trees. And, in Mexico, I just lived on like papaya and mangoes and coconut water all the time. But some of them have like animal husbandry, they call it, where they're raising animals. And I talked to this one guy who had become a crypto billionaire and bought some land and was trying to get me to, be part of that new community. And he said, yeah, we're looking for animals that haven't been vaccinated because, there so many have been vaccinated. I'm like, oh, what are you going to do with them? And it's like, we're going to eat them, And I mean, I just could not live in a community where I see the animals every day. I don't think anybody with a heart could. And you're working with them and you're feeding them and everything. And then it's like, okay, It's just such a betrayal of their
Mhm.
trust. So, again, this is all about new earth communities. And I think one of the first things we have to do to get on the right timeline with this, to get on the Crystalla spiral with this, because if it's not on the Crystalla spiral, it's going to fizzle out. These new earth communities are going to fizzle out if they're just based on the old paradigm of the finite earth. So, we have to clean our bodies out, and we have to get up to the frequency where we can eat, let's say plant-based, to make it broad. I mean, some people are fruitarians. I'd like to be there, but I'm not there yet. Everyone's moving at their own pace, but just to not eat things, not to feed off the dead. Let's just put it that way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, everything that we consume is either, moving us into a greater state of youth and vitality, as like, do I want to eat things that are alive and living, full of living enzymes, or do I want to eat something that's, been artificially sprayed or injected with something to make it appear fresh when it's actually been dead for however many weeks or whatever, it's just, oh, yeah, you're right. It's like
so I'm going to make a little sales pitch for my latest children's book that I wrote 20 years ago living in Montana, and it's finally out, and it's called The Little Cow Who Refused to Be Hamburger.
I love it.
It's a beautiful story. When I had written all this, and then it just kind of filed it away after Peter died, and I just got it out like last year. And when I read it for the first time, I just cried. But it's all about this little cow that just loved to roam free, and found the holes in the fence, and because he was disobeying the herd and his mother, his life was spared, and he came back. And about the men with trucks that came, and about him running along a highway trying to save his life, and an eagle that led him to the Yellowstone, really, because I lived in that area close to the Yellowstones. In fact, a few years ago, after I'd written the story about 20 years ago, I read this article that they found this cow in the herd of buffalo in Yellowstone. That's Buford, my little cow.
Yeah.
So
You
I
helped
think it's
create that timeline.
I did. And it's a beautiful story for children. I think it teaches them not only respect for all life form, but to go against the herd, to break free from the herd. Because, if you stay in the herd, especially if you're in the rear of it, it's really stinky. And, you're not going to go to the right place. So, it's available on Amazon and everything, PDFs on my website. So, I'm going to tell people, since we're running out of time, how they can get in touch with you, please.
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook. I'm a soul. I have a page for Blue Heart Sanctuary where I post a lot of really adorable animal videos. My website is blueheartsanctuary.org, and also Soul Gaia, SOLGAIA, soulgaia.org. And if you'd like to send me an email, I can be reached at love@blueheartsanctuary.org.
Okay. And also, any donations are welcome, because I know you took on a lot of, and I tried to donate and the link didn't go through. So check on that, because I heard
I'm
a
not
few
certain
other people.
why.
But on
I do have a PayPal, paypal.me, PayPal me /Blue Heart Sanctuary. I'm on Venmo at Blue Heart Sanctuary. And also I have a GiveButter. It's givebutter.com /love Blue Heart.
okay. And, that money goes to help all these beautiful animals, and
I've never taken a salary. This is all my
nonprofit. It's all a nonprofit.
501c3. So donations are tax deductible if you are part of that system.
And she's a beautiful soul, very sincere, very authentic. So, and you can see the videos of her at the animals. It's just it makes your heart feel good. If you're having a tough day, just watch Alma with her sheep, and and dogs and all the animals. So, okay, so this is it. And, please subscribe to my website, www.infinitehuman.com, and join the Infinite Human family. And like I said, I'm really getting guided or pushed to open a Patreon so we can, my thrust now is to start to create a community so we can all communicate and I can get to know you better. So I'm not just talking at you, and we can start networking and sharing with each other and begin first our New Earth community in sacred cyberspace, and then manifest it on in the physical. But I tried to buy, I think I told you, like 2 different properties. It was just ridiculous, the things that got, it's like, I'd make an offer and they'd like say no, $5 million. I mean, it was like so ridiculous. And I just got, okay, it's not time. I need to get the people and then get the investors, and then we can, make it happen. So, but I get so excited, I get ahead of myself sometimes. So but if this resonates with you, please, join. The best way is to join my website, subscribe at infinitehuman.com, and then I'll keep you abreast of all the different projects and experiences that Peter and I will be creating. Okay, thank you so much again for being here.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. I'm so grateful.
And what a beautiful soul. I feel so fulfilled with such a high frequency just sharing with you. So, and I hope you guys have enjoyed sharing this sacred cyberspace with us. And okay, so until next week, ciao for now.
Magic moments. Magic moments. Memories we've been sharing. Magic moments. Magic moments. Time can erase the memory of Thank you.